The second season of Invincible has finally been released, after exactly 2.5 years since season 1 ended back in April of 2021. And not just season 2, but much better, half of season 2. But to be serious now, it shouldn't take for an animated show, or for any show to take 2.5 years only to release 4 episodes. It's more or less understandable when Arcane takes 3 years for a new season to be made, since the show is extremely expensive and animation is hard to do properly. Anyway, the first half of Invincible certainly wasn't disappointing. It might have had a pretty sloppy start, but ended on a very strong note. There are two main directions in which the show will be going, as it seems. First is multiverse stuff. The second season even starts with a scene in a parallel version of Earth, in which Mark, aka Invincible, is on his father's side, so together they conquer the Earth, just like Omn Man was supposed to in our universe, and crash the remains of the underground resistance. This is a very powerful opening to season 2 because it demonstrates what might happen if Omn Man and Invincible actually do work together, and what terrible powers Viltrumites possess. The second direction is the war between the Viltrumites and the resistance in our own universe. Multiverse has just been teased to us, so I do think that the second season, the rest of it, will be about our universe and the war between Viltrum Empire and the rest of the galaxy. While Multiverse, as it seems, will remain a looming threat somewhere on the horizon that will explode later. I didn't read the comic books, but I heard that the Multiverse plays a significant role in the comics. My favorite moment of season 2 so far certainly was when Mark met his father again. And the hack is a very good detail that shows that Mark still loves his father, despite everything that no one put him through. What Omn Man did was certainly horrifying. But there was a lot of good stuff before that. It is a good character moment, though maybe not as symbolically beautiful as Omn Man losing a single drop of tears as he leaves the Earth at the end of season 1. No one's development was not what I honestly expected. Instead of going back to Viltrum, which he couldn't do anyway, he is just drifting across the galaxy, suffering because of what happened on Earth and what he lost there. After his wife and son, years that he spent on Earth changed no one and made him a completely different person. Love was much stronger than his upbringing and belief in Viltrumite superiority. Omn Man found a planet where he became a leader. He didn't conquer the planet, but he accepted an offer of its citizens to be their protector. He even made another kit which Omn Man swore to defend from other Viltrumites, when Viltrumites would inevitably come after him. Which they do in the 4th episode. Viltrumites are a real threat, and we see how ridiculously powerful they are. After the fight against Omn Man, Mark is left with a lot of inner scars. He tries to prove that he is a worthy hero and that he can actually defend people and do a lot of good stuff. Occasionally we see that Mark has a very dark side which rears its head from time to time. We see it in the 2nd episode when Mark has to face Darkwing, how he becomes terrifyingly menacing and cruel that even a villain is afraid of him. This is what makes Mark Grayson such a great main protagonist. He is not just a regular hero, he is like a ticking bomb that can explode any moment. And we still haven't seen the peak of his abilities. He was raised by loving parents without even knowing who he actually is and who his father actually is. He was raised as a regular human boy, but he still got Viltrumite blood in him. We see that in other realities Mark embraces Viltrum ideology, his heritage, and helps his father to bring Earth into submission. This is our main protagonist, and, presumably, the only one who has a slight chance to actually stop the Viltrum Empire. I made a video talking about why people love shows like Invincible or The Boys, and what new these shows offer in comparison to mainstream superhero stuff that Marvel and DC have been producing for over a decade. In a nutshell, Invincible offers us a truly morally complex main protagonist, something that the MCU couldn't offer. What the MCU offers is essentially idealistic heroism. The heroes always strive to be better and to do exclusively good, help and save other people. This kind of hero is also needed, of course, but it becomes a real problem when every single character is idealistically heroic. In the MCU, characters do not face serious personal challenges. Characters might argue and fight, but, essentially, helping people is their only goal. They just have disagreements regarding the methods. Obviously, the same thing cannot be said about Mark Grayson. There is always a possibility that Mark can just snap, break from the inside, which will bring his dark Viltrumite side to the light. Because the show has a lot of gore and a lot of violence, the threat feels more real. It feels like the main character can get hurt and his life is in actual danger. Mark's mother Debbie seemingly suffers even more than Mark after Omni Man left Earth. She realizes that no one has been an imposter, but she misses him nonetheless, even though their marriage was not perfect. And no one was often missing and hasn't been there for Mark, being busy with his superhero stuff. In many ways, Debbie's struggles are more relatable, because she doesn't have any powers unlike her son, so she cannot just go to the bottom of the ocean and fight some huge monsters to digest her trauma. And as Mark leaves her for college, she feels even more abandoned and hopeless, and she doesn't really know what to do. Her character arc is definitely leading somewhere, but I have a hard time figuring it out. I suppose at some point she and Omni Man will meet again and it'll be a cathartic moment for both characters. And for Mark as well. What I didn't like is how other characters are completely overshadowed in the second season, especially Samantha aka Adam Eve. We got a special episode about Samantha that shed light on how she discovered her powers and her actual family. But she lost her real family and the only friend she ever made, so she was left in this abusive household with the realization that her parents aren't her actual parents and that her power is a target on her back. The special was good, but in Invincible her character is just not going anywhere particularly since the very moment she left her abusive family and started living on her own. Honestly, her character and her abilities have too much potential, and so far she's been severely underused. But we only saw half of the season at this point, and it is too early to draw any conclusions too definitive. But I wish Atom Eve somehow played a more crucial role in the main plot. Other Guardians of the Globe just aren't really interesting to me, even Robot and Amanda, who try to figure out their complicated relationship. All in all, the first 4 episodes were very decent. They gave us some interesting and even unexpected development of Omni Man, as well as further establishing the conflict between the Viltrum Empire and the Resistance. They also introduced us to the big looming multiversal threat that will play a big role in the future of the show. And the 4th episode had a pretty much perfect ending. Once again Mark is left with a terrible dilemma. Once again he needs to decide what he should do to protect Earth, and not allow mass genocide when it's so still so over his head. He must figure out what to do next. Earth isn't his only concern. He also must find a way to save his father from other Viltrumites. Hopefully the wait for the rest of season 2 won't be too long.